You have just had such a journey, and we already talked about this yesterday on our first attempt. But like we said, the technology was not cooperating. Tell me about your journey to the platform and how you started. I love this story. Everybody's going to love it.
Yeah, well, it's one thing I've learned about everybody in the speaking business. I don't know of very many who went to college to become a professional speaker, or how many started out in life saying, or when they were 7 years old on the Mr. Knows It show, and somebody, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a professional speaker. Nobody ever said that. So we all just have our own unique path. So the path that I took worked for me. Wouldn't be anybody else's path, but it was mine. And it started because of my dad. I didn't realize it at the time, but I used to watch him when I was a little fella speak at churches. He was a great soloist, and he sang, and he was always in leadership positions. And every PTA when I was in school, he was president of, and he was president of the civic club, Ruritan, and he was just everything he got into, he became president or in some leadership position. And so I don't remember ever consciously saying, as I watched him speak, I want to do that. But I was learning from, and then time rolled on. I got through school, and I went to work with a guy who insisted I take a Dale Carnegie course in 1972.
Goodness.
And I'd heard about the book. One thing I didn't share yesterday was when I graduated from college in Carolina in August of 1969, my new job that I had taken didn't start till January 1st. So I had about 4 or 5 months there that I had to make a living because I had a new wife and a new house. My house payment then was $57.52 a month. I'll never forget that as long as I live. I hadn't had a bill that low in 20 years. Anyway, but I remember I had that, so I had to make that house payment, and we had to eat. So my dad said, I tell you what, come in here every week, and I'll give you something to do. I'll give you a check on Friday, enough to take care of your bills. So I came in that first Monday after I graduated, and he put me in a little office, and he had about 10 books in there. One of them was How to Win Friends and Influence People, and the other was just all the classics in motivation and self-help. And he said, your job, and between now and December 31st, to read all these books. And at the end of every Friday, you got to hand me 5 handwritten pages, front and back, of the notes you've taken from your reading. And when you do, I'll give you a paycheck to cover your bills between now and when you start that job. Jane, I learned more in that 4 or 5 months on those books than I had in the whole time I was in school, I believe. And
that
about
is probably one of the most brilliant ideas.
Yeah. And
I'm telling you, I'm so glad you said that. I'm gonna make a mental note of that for someone we all dear loved in our home. So
yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I'm telling you, just to and the thing that he thought, I don't know what caused him to think about doing that, but it really had an impact on me. So anyway, I had heard of Dale Carnegie, and I'd heard of How to Win Friends and Influence People because that was one of the books I'd read, but I didn't know I don't remember consciously being aware that they had a class of any kind. But in 1972, this guy was working for John Ahern, met a buddy of his, who the two of them had been through a Dale Carnegie class in Savannah. And we had been at a meeting actually in Houston. And when we got back, he told me and his son-in-law, both of us were 25, 26, I think 26 years old at the time. He said, I want y'all both to take this next Dale Carnegie course in Columbia.
Wow.
And so I went very reluctantly. After at the break at session 7, the instructor, Luther Kelly, who was assistant postmaster, because a lot of the Carnegie instructors did something else professionally and taught these classes in the evenings. And he came to me at the break and he said, Al, I want you to hang around. I want to talk to you after class. And I remember thinking, this isn't going to be good. Because in my entire academic experience, anytime a teacher said, I want to talk to you after class, I'd messed up somewhere. And so I never had one teacher say, I want to talk to you after class. And after class, they said, oh, we love you. We think you're wonderful. It was always something wrong. But he said, after class, it was just 2 of us. And he said, I've been teaching this thing for about 15 years. He said, I've never seen anybody come through here with the kind of talent that you have. You've got to do something with it. And
whoa.
Because of him, his influence and my dad's influence, and I went to work with Dale Carnegie full time and became a Dale Carnegie instructor. And that was the extent of my using whatever skill or talent, I may have had. And I think I shared with you earlier about how when I was in junior high school, 7th or 8th grade, and crashing and burning my way through puberty. One teacher out in the hallway one day said, just out of the blue, said, have you thought about radio? I had no idea that she meant have you thought about going on radio. It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Because she didn't preface that by saying, your voice sounds like a voice that could be on radio. She just said, you thought about radio. And the way my brain works, I remember thinking, have you thought about plumbing? And, but I didn't say it, which I would normally have done. Anyway, I became an instructor. And then after about 5 years, had done really well with Carnegie and didn't realize that those 5 years, every time we put a class together, and I had the central part of South Carolina I was in charge of, working with chambers of commerce, I would give as many as 5 free talks a day. It was the same talk over and over to employees.
I cannot imagine. 5.
Me either. I'd start in the morning. I had my first one. It was a great training ground for
oh gosh, yeah, that's incredible.
Being a speaker.